So this large ball of different colored yarn means that we're starting another scrap yarn video. And we're gonna start actually with this one, and I think this is like my winter bear. I'm actually gonna make some different accessories for him that I haven't decided on yet, so we'll get started with this one. So we're gonna start at the top of his head, and we're just gonna work in rounds. So I'm just gonna make my loop. Chain 3. I've zoomed us in a little bit, so hopefully you can see better what I'm doing. So I haven't done anything else from the last shot. I made my first loop, chained 3, then I'm going to slip stitch into the original loop. And I'll be using single crochets for his body. So I'm just going to chain 1, then do 2 single crochets. If I can get my hook in the right spot. In every loop around. Now what's great about these is they're really easily customizable. So we're doing this part of his head, and now that I've made one, if I want to do one just like this, I can kind of compare and hold this up to see where we are. But if this is your first one, you can just kind of feel it out and figure it out as you go. So I'm just going to keep doing 2 single crochets in each stitch around until the crown of his head is about as big as I want. Okay, so once I get to about here, now instead of doing 2 single crochets in every stitch, I will alternate between doing 1 and then 2, because if we keep going with 2 at this point, it's going to start to get wrinkly and be expanding too quickly. So now I'm going to stop increasing and just do 1 single crochet in each one. And I will keep doing this around until its head is as long as I want it to be. Okay, so now that we've got the head, this bear, I took off part of the scarf that I didn't stitch down so you can see a little bit. It doesn't really have a neck, I just kind of went straight into the body. So to get this kind of nice sloping effect where it gradually gets bigger and then he gets real fat, I increased by doing 2 single crochets in 1 stitch about every 5 stitches. So I would do 5 single crochets in 5 chains and then do 2 in 1. And doing that consistently will kind of make it get gradually fatter. Again, you can change that up if you want it to have a neck or get even bigger or not get quite so big. But yeah, I will continue, I'll do that again with doing 5 and then I will do 2 single crochets in 1 stitch and then just keep repeating that until the body is as wide as I want it to be, and I'll stop there. So as you can see, it's starting to bell out a little bit because I've been doing that increase every 5 stitches. So I'm going to continue this until it gets like right under the arm. And then I'm going to start doing that increase every 10 stitches, and I'll do that until it gets about halfway down the body. Okay, so at this point, I am just about at the shoulders. So now I'm going to stop increasing and just keep going around for as long as I want the body to be. At this point, we're gonna like slim down this area of the hips a little bit. And what I did for this is, instead of decreasing like in increments like we have been, is I just basically decided which side was gonna be the front and back, and I did 4 more rows and I decreased on each side each row. So I think I want this to be the front, and these are my sides. So I'm gonna do about 4 more rows, decreasing by 1 single crochet each time I get to one of these sides. And you can decrease a couple of ways. One way is just to skip a stitch, but sometimes I find that that is a little bit too noticeable. So the way I like to decrease is by basically putting 2 stitches together. So I'll put my hook through this loop, yarn over and pull through that. Then before I connect to them to make the single crochet, I'll stick my hook in this loop, yarn over through it, and then yarn over through them both. So I've basically done 1 single crochet that takes up 2 stitches, and that's how I decrease. So I'll just continue around until I've done about 4 more rows, decreasing on each side. Okay, so this is our body. It looks kind of like a hat at this point. We are ready to start the legs. So we are here right now. On the map of this bear, you are here. So the legs are 30 stitches around. So for this, we're just gonna start the leg right from where we are. So to even this out from the stitch we're at to the row below, we're just gonna do a slip stitch so that that kind of flattens out. Then we're basically trying to figure out how to show this. We're gonna make a circle here. So we're gonna do about 7 or 8 single crochets. Then we're gonna chain 15, because that's half of 30. Then count 15 back from what we just did, or 7 or 8 from that slip stitch. And slip stitch to join those two. Too tight there. There we go. So now it's dark in there. This little ring we've just made is going to become the leg. So now I've slip stitched, I'm going to chain 1, and I will go back to single crocheting, only this time we're crocheting just around the leg. All right, so here's our leg. Now you've got a couple options for the feet. For these, I was trying to make it stand up, so I actually tied this off as is, in which case you would just slip stitch in the next couple of stitches to even it out, cut, and then I crocheted these discs and just slip stitched them on. I don't hate it, but I'm gonna try rounding out the foot a little bit. Okay, so here we are at the end of the leg. Now all I did for this was immediately decrease, and then I just did 3 regular single crochets and then decreased on the 4th, and I just kept doing that all the way around until this foot was almost all the way closed up. So now instead of doing 3 in between, I am just skipping every other chain, and obviously that closes it off really quickly. And then once there is just this little tiny hole left, I'm gonna go down to slip stitching, and I'm doing every other stitch. I am just like skipping one, slip stitch, skipping one, slip stitch, just to give this like a nice flat closed off area. And we'll just keep doing that until it's closed up. Why can't I get this one in here? And we've got our funny little bear skin. So at this point we are ready to stuff it. So we're just gonna stuff them as much as we like, put a little stuffing in the legs. I'll wait till I close them up a little bit and then finesse it some more. So I left this marker in because I wanted to remember that I decided this is the front. This is the easiest way for me to think of to close this up. If you have better ideas, please share with the class. Basically what we're going to be doing is starting here in the front and just going back and forth, slip stitching to join between the legs. It basically kind of looks like a diaper or a maxi pad shape, but that's the way it works. And then there is this like little tiny seam in the booty where the lap slip stitch is to join, but it's not super visible and it's in the back, so I think it's fine. Obviously with this rainbow one it's going to be a little more visible because it'll probably be a different color, but that's okay. I'm going to start with the leg. And that row and slip to join. This a little better maybe? Yeah, okay. Well, my hand's still kind of in the way, but... So I'm single crocheting across. Then slip stitching to join. Then we're gonna slip stitch into the next loop of the leg. And then go back, and I'm gonna time lapse this, so I'm not gonna cut it off just yet, but you're just gonna go back and forth slip stitching into the next chain of the leg each time. And obviously when you get closer to the center of the body, there's only gonna be a couple of stitches in there, and then it'll widen back out once you get back to the butt. Okay, so, whoops, we're ready to close it up. You know that because you're out of chains in the legs. Obviously it's a little spread out, but we're going to pinch that closed, and it actually worked out perfectly that these are the same color. I did not plan that. So the seam won't be like as visible, but when there was still a little more room than this left, I went ahead and added a bit more stuffing. So now I'm just going to slip stitch this closed. Obviously it's going to be a little funky because you have to kind of pinch it closed, but once you get everything, it's like performing surgery on a stuffed animal. You could probably do this with a needle too if this was too difficult for you, but it's not so bad. Alright, so now obviously we have our weird little blob. Mush them around. Oh, this one, well, I was going to say it stands better, but mush them around, try to get the lumps out. I'm going to tie off all the ends. These have obviously been tied, and tuck them inside. That part is super easy. I always just come from a different part. And just kind of tuck them inside, and the filling kind of holds them in place a little bit. That way you don't have to worry about like trimming stuff super short and being able to see the extra strings. It's just a lot faster to tuck them all inside. So I'm going to do all of that, tie off the ends, and then we'll be ready to do the arms and the face. All right. As promised, it's the next day, not that you would know the difference, and we're going to start the arms. Again, you can make these as narrow or as wide as you want. We're just going to start at the edge of the paw, and you can just go for as long as you like. So we'll start the same way we did with the head. Make our loop, chain 3, slip stitch to join, chain 1, and then do 2 single crochets in each from the previous row. That first one is always the hardest. You're just going to keep going around doing 2 in each until the paw is as wide as you want it to be. Then I'm just going to do 1 single crochet in each and just keep going around until the paw is as long as I like. And the way that I made this a little wider at the paw and narrower in the arm is I just overstuffed it just a little bit over here. If you wanted that to be more prominent, you could decrease a little bit as you go into the arm to make the paw a little bit more round, but again, that's really up to you. Okay, so I finished the other arm, and all I did to finish these off was do a slip stitch in the next 2 stitches just to kind of even it out. Then before we stuff these and attach them, I'm gonna just finish crocheting the snout snout, is that right? Whatever, the nose, and the ears, and then we'll stuff and attach everything all at once. We'll start the nose the same way. There are 3, slip stitch to join, chain 1, 2 singles in each. If you don't learn anything else from this video, it'll be how to start something round. Unless you want to go the magic circle route, but I just always start things this way. Oh yeah, I didn't mention the arms. I ended up having 14 stitches going around. For the nose, I kept going until there were 10. And then we'll just go into 1 single crochet per stitch. And I went around for 3 rows of this so that it would stick just a little bit off the face, but not be too long. Then again, I'm just going to slip stitch in the next, honestly 1 chain will do it. I just usually do 2 just to really make sure that transition's nice. Okay, so then for the ears, we're basically just trying to make a little fan shape. So we've got our loop on the crochet hook. You're going to chain 3, and then we're going to do 8 double crochets into this first chain. So now we've got this little fan shape for our ear. So you want 4 of those so that we can put a little bit of stuffing into them. So I'm going to tie this off and make 3 more of these. Alright, so now that I've got my little ear pieces, all I'm going to do is slip stitch the arched part together. All right, now we can stuff everything and attach it. So I will get my yarn out of the way. The easiest way for me to do this is just using a needle and thread. In the past, and even with the next bear, I've used like a darning needle and yarn to sew things on, but the little pieces are so small for this that a needle and thread just worked better. There we go. Now you can see what I'm doing a little better. And if you've never hand stitched before, I'll let you see what I'm doing, but it's pretty, not self-explanatory, but like you can just go off your instincts pretty well. You're just gonna stitch back and forth until it feels secure and then tie everything off. And once you get a few stitches in, if you've pinned it, you can go ahead and take the pin out. So I'll do both the arms and I'll just show you. You really just place the ears wherever you like on the head as well as the snout. And then I'll show you how I use embroidery floss to do the eyes and the nose when I'm done. Okay, so I've gone with black for the embroidery floss for the eyes and nose, just because I think that would be the easiest to see. White might have also been an option. So I've done one eye here. It's maybe a little beady looking, so if you're not into that, you can make it a little bit bigger. But all I did, I'm still kind of new at this stitch, so if it doesn't come out right the first time, it's pretty easy to just do it again. We're gonna do, I forget what they're called. That's so helpful. I'll look up the name and put it up here, but it's like the stitch you do if you're gonna make like a little bead. So you're just gonna pull this out a little bit and wrap around your needle. I did 12 times. Then pull it around that pull it around that crochet stitch. There we go. And pull through, and we've got a little eye, and if it's kind of like sticking up too much, I just did one more stitch. Through that side. You can kind of move them around. You could do more than that if you wanted them to be a little bit bigger, or do buttons as well. I started in the middle and just do a couple passes of a vertical line. Then I just kind of came over top. You can see this one with like some horizontal lines that get smaller. I'm just basically trying to make it look like a bear's nose. It's not an exact science. So I'm gonna finish up his nose, tie all this up. So I don't know if I want to do like sunglasses or a baseball cap or what I want to do. So I'm gonna finish up the face and figure out that stuff, and I'll be back when I figure out what kind of accessories he gets to have. So I've made my decision. This is a little face. We're gonna give him like a crossbody bag that feels very summery vibes, and some sunglasses. They're so silly. I wanted to make them first to make sure I could like make them look convincing before I started filming, so maybe we'll just keep this pair in the bag and then he can have two pairs to switch out. I have not figured out how I'm gonna keep them on his face yet, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, so I've chained 10. Okay, so this is what our little bag is gonna look like. I just did 24 rows of single crochet after chaining 10 so that it can work kind of like a little billfold. So now I just need to slip stitch up the sides and then we'll do the strap. Okay, so we've chained 55 and now we will slip stitch to join and then stitch up the rest. And there's a little bag, and obviously we'll tie all that off. If you wanted to do some kind of like little button or something, I might do a fake one just because it'll look cute. So for the sunglasses, they're very basic. I just started by making 2 circles. Got our 3, slip stitch to join, yada yada. Copy and paste from before. That looks pretty good. Then I did my 2 slip stitch into the next 2 to even that out, tie it off, and then make a second one. Okay, so I've got my 2 little circles. Instead of cutting off the second one, I just chained 2. Then slip stitch to join them together. Then tied it off. So now we're just going to add like if you want to keep them as circle glasses, you could do that and just do the arms, but I just did like this extra little ridge on top. So I chained 6. Did a slip stitch to join on the corner, and then to kind of square them off a little bit, I actually did 1 single crochet. Then I just slip stitched across the top. Another single crochet, chain another 6. Perfect. You could do this with embroidery floss too, but I just figured the yarn would be a lot faster. And I basically just embroidered with the yarn to do the black part. So I will do that on both sides and then tie off all the ends. And I think I will probably just use some thread or something thin to tie on these to hold them on his face. You could stitch the sunglasses on his face, but I like the little beady eyes, and so I kind of like the option of taking those off. So I'll show you how I do that when I show you the finished product. Eee, look at him, he's done. It's so goofy and I love it. I did end up just like, it's 2 pieces, but there's just like a piece of thread that kind of like lightly holds the sunglasses on so that you can take them off if you want. Yeah, so I've got the other sunglasses in a little bag. I found this random bead in my craft supplies that I just stitched on there. The bag is stitched like at the top and then at the shoulder just so that I don't lose them. But yeah, they're seasonal cousins, so now they can just like hang out on my shelf in the winter and then spring and summer. Should have made them like a surfboard or something. All right, now we can move on to more traditional style teddy bear.